we have a few minutes left, and you know, back then in the 19th century, there was this parliament session that's supposed to happen in London, but nobody turned up because even though they put lime on near the windows and whatever, but the stench coming from the River Thames just make it unbearable. From then on, they decided to give some money and attention, and they re-engineered the sewage treatment, and you know, success story up until now. But it's been a long fight for the Thames. But for the Malaysian rivers, a lot of talk have been centering on the rivers in the Klang Valley, but I'm sure there's a lot of rivers like in Penang, and Sungai Pinang is not that long, you know, but it's one of the worst polluted river, and we've been talking about it for years. But you have some good stories to tell, because just like for the Thames, we have reconstructed some habitat for our rivers here too.
Yes, very definitely. As I explained, Sungai Way is actually a concretized channel, so we can't remove the concrete. So what we've done, we've actually tried to create the natural environment of a living river within the river. It's called a river within river concept. We've actually built natural habitats, planted the kind of plants which are normally found in a living river. We've created the river banks with the natural trees, and this has helped bring back organisms into the river. We've also put in rock beds which create different levels within the river, so it's very much replicating the environment of a natural river. So it can be done. There are things which we have done to improve the physical environment of the river, putting in traps to collect garbage, putting in grease traps to prevent oil from getting into the river. But as I said, the most important thing is engaging with the local community. That is really the backbone of the success of our project. Getting the local community on board, getting the multiple stakeholders which are involved, government stakeholders, all working together. And the key success factor for us is having a project committee, steering committee, with members of government, members of community, NGOs, and private and public sector as well, working hand in hand.
I've always been accused of being an idealist, but maybe one of the reasons that we want a buy-in a bit later. What if we get the buy-in at the very beginning? What if, especially the future generation, they see our river as something for them to use daily? Because nowadays we all just need, you know, our touch and go cars go on the public transportation system. We don't need to know about our rivers. But what if, because there are debates about if we rehabilitate the rivers in the Klang Valley, you know, we have water taxis, and you know, but the other drawback to that is there's going to be more development maybe. So what are your views on that?
For us, it's making the river very, very relevant to young people. Yeah. For instance, we've had river carnivals. It's trying to bring families together and showing them how the river can be a place for families to get together and really have fun. Yeah. And I think when people see this and they start appreciating the river again, it really helps them in changing their thinking. And for us, the other very important thing also is educating the young children, and we've done a lot of work with interactive programs, getting them to understand that this is the source of your drinking water. You need to conserve this for your future. And that engagement with the younger generation has certainly helped. So
instead of just taking the train, maybe 10 years from now, we can go down the Klang River to move from one point to the other. And before I let Robert go, I want to one last secret from the Thames River. When it was set out to bring back life, you know, you sort of have to re-engineer what kind of life you want, because how you bring it back will determine what kind of habitat and stuff. So who gets to play God, and what were the main consideration there, if I can put it from that perspective?
Well, we had to do historical research as to what were the habitats there and what were the species along the river before they disappeared. So we had to look at old records from churches, for example, and from the palaces of the kings and queens, and the diaries of Samuel Pepys. We looked at the plays of William Shakespeare, because he mentions many birds there. The books of Charles Dickens, many of the stories feature the river. So we were able to piece together what we had lost. But we still don't know completely what we lost. So we still don't know exactly what we need to bring back. And big issue for rivers in Malaysia is that you have so many endemic species, you have so much wildlife not found anywhere else, that if you lose it now, you cannot get it back from anywhere else. So it's not really a question of can you afford to restore the river. It's
You must.
you cannot afford not to do it.
Dr. Kalitasan, that's the clarion call. But how do we implement? We always have good ideas or great ideas in this country, but the devil is in the execution of things. So we've got the local authorities, we've got state authorities, got the federal authorities. You want the community to come in and really pitch in every day. So how do we gel all this together sustainably? Climate change, remember?
Certainly. I think it's very simple. The answer is very simple, but sometimes simple is difficult in Malaysia to be practiced because we like the complicated thing method and very complex. So very simple is an integrated and holistic approach where every party have their own way within their mean and what you call jurisdiction to play their part. For example, the government, they have clear role to play, and then the private sectors, beside reduce the pollution or completely stop, they also have a part to play to educate the other society who cannot afford in terms of the resources. That's the thing. The other one is how important the river or watering the river. Is it only for the people? Or only for the drinking purpose, or food for the environment? Because we have to understand, most of the time we're only talking about human being, the selfish species in this world. But we have to understand the real stakeholders of the river is not only human being, but the animal and plants who was living there much earlier than us. And because we are sixth sense creatures who can think. So whenever we plan, whenever we say integrated or holistic approach, we also need to take care the important and have to be guardian for them as well. So everything we plan, we only not looking to ourselves, but also is equally important to protect the, say for example, dragonfly, the fish.
So from the consumer perspective, if you were to buy the promise of any new township, if there's not a mention about river estuarine or river basin sustainability, if you don't see a river, short to say, within that housing project, so forget it. It's not sustainable. Is that what we're going? Where we're going to?
But of course, lately some of the developers already put in this river view.
Just the view. But what about the river? You have to come back. Robert have to come back from London. There's AirAsia now, so it's cheaper to come to KL. So thank you so much for making time. Thanks to you. Jangan lupa besok ada forum di Putrajaya, Dewan Sri Siantan. Anda boleh Google dan akan jumpa. Dan kalau tak tahu juga, hantarkan pandangan atau pertanyaan anda kepada Facebook dan Twitter Astro Awani ataupun teruskan email sahaja kepada kami dan kami akan hubungkan anda dengan maklumat itu. Sekian, selamat malam, terima kasih dan jangan lupa, marilah kita tukar lukisan anak-anak di sekolah kita daripada warna coklat dan hitam terhadap sungai kepada warna biru kembali. Terima kasih, selamat malam. Thank you so much.
Thank you.